And the guest this week is Šeјх Халид Јасин. Assalamu
alaikum.
First of all, thank you for being with us. Let's start the show with a simple question. Who is Šeјch Halid Јasin?
Šeјch Halid Јasin is an American citizen, Muslim by faith, and world traveler and international lecturer. Father of 13 children and grandfather of 37.
13 children?
And 37 grandchildren.
37 grandchildren. If we look at your own time when you were a child, could you describe your childhood for us? Because you grew up in Brooklyn?
Well, I think I had a very rich childhood. I have 9 siblings, and we grew up, I guess, in a very simple setting. We might say that we grew up poor but principled. I was born a Christian, so religion and Jesus Christ in particular was a very much part of my life. So I think that becoming a Muslim was a natural progression for me.
Yeah. But you also said I felt rich during my childhood. Could you define that for us? What did you mean by rich?
Well, I was born in 1946, so when I arrived at the higher part of my adolescence, this was the turbulent 60s, very controversial era, very trying time in American history.
We had the background of civil rights, we had Malcolm X during that time,
exactly.
And Black Panthers.
So therefore, I think that contributed a lot towards the development of my maturity.
Yeah. There was a certain point in which you decided to convert to Islam. Could you tell us what made you convert?
Abdullah, we who accept Islam and embrace Islam from another faith, we don't like to use the term convert. We like the word revert.
Revert. Returning to Islam.
Well, returning to our natural disposition, according to our belief that Almighty God created the human being with a natural inclination and disposition towards faith and belief and good conduct. The religious orientation that people adopt, usually from their parents or from their culture or from their society or from the influences around them. So that's what makes them a Hindu, Buddhist, or whatever. So I was a Christian by natural causes, and when I became a Muslim, it was because I was exposed to the Quran. I was exposed to the life of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him. I was exposed to the principles of Islam, and I found after that exposure that there wasn't really there shouldn't be any hesitancy on my part to accept the premises of Islam. So I thought...
And how were you exposed?
Well, reading, observation. The Encyclopedia Britannica probably provided me with the best information that I could have received. It wasn't somebody proselytizing or somebody campaigning or trying to introduce Islam to me. No, the word Islam was in the news. There was a group of people called the Nation of Islam. I had read something about Islam in school, but on one particular occasion I was riding the train, I can remember, and there was an article in the New York Times.
And you were a student at that time?
That's correct. And that article in the New York Times was a letter written by the person better known as Malcolm X, about his experience in Mecca. And I was very surprised what he said about Mecca, what he said about Islam, about the Quran, about the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him. Because in school I hadn't really understood those terminologies. So because this was an epiphany in his life when he went to Mecca, he thought himself to be a minister of the Nation of Islam. But when he went to Mecca, he found he didn't know anything about Islam.
But reading that, what did you read which changed your view of Islam? Or
I immediately went to the Encyclopedia Britannica because I wanted to know those terminologies. I want to know this Islam, what is that?
So you were looking up everything.
Yeah, this terminology, Quran, what is that? And who is this man, Muhammad? So it was the Encyclopedia Britannica that provided me what I consider to be the universal information, that, non-subjective information. And so from that information, I started looking into Islam just from an investigative point of view. And after some time, I compared it with the Christian values that I already had. I found no antagonism, no hostility, and no problem. I just saw Islam as a natural progression to my Christian experience.
Yeah. Reverting to Islam is one thing, preaching another. Why preach?
I don't know if I ever characterized myself as a preacher. I think it's other people. They see people who represent religion and speak about their religious values as preachers. I'm not a preacher. I'm a teacher. That's a big difference.
So we should call you a teacher in Islam?
Well, no, not necessarily.
Help us out here.
Yeah,
I want to know.
I happen to be a Muslim. So the moral values, you see, the moral values that drive my views are Islam. But I'm not a person preaching about Islam, calling people to Islam. That's not my ambition. Maybe 20 years ago, in a bit of my naivete, you could say that because maybe people think we need to call people to Islam. But 20 years after understanding human psychology, I don't call people to Islam. I try to wear the principles of Islam to my conduct. I try to engage with people. And then if people are inquisitive like yourself and they say, "But you're a Muslim, what is that about?" Then from that point, because you knock on the door, then I answer.
Why do you consider that as being important to you, and maybe to Islam?
If I were the manager of an art gallery, wouldn't I feel the necessity of taking people through and looking at the art and explaining what it is? Of course I would, because I would consider it to be a valuable job. So as a Muslim, there are 1.5 or more million Muslims in the world. Islam has occupied a huge amount of the history of the world and its civilizations. So therefore, being a Muslim, I feel very empowered, I feel very privileged. And so it is a part of my life that when people inquire about it, I have to have the answers, and I